That is not how black people live. The Black or African American community in the United States. Video number 1. Before we start, if you are an American, there is a legal way to get rid of your student loans in 25 years without filing bankruptcy. Plus, your student loan payments could drop to zero after they consider your rent, food, transportation, etc. In year 25, whatever amount of your student loans are remaining will be automatically discharged. I am saying this because over 2 million people over the age of 60 are still paying off their student loans. None of them ever believed that they would be in this situation at 60 years old. None of them knew about this federal law. In addition, you can file bankruptcy on your student loans, but the requirements are so high that most people will not qualify. I will leave a link to these videos in the description below. Many people think that black or African American neighborhoods are not safe. People believe that my community is filled with guns, drug dealers, and the majority of black people are poor. All of this is not true. The neighborhood I am currently in is a black or African American neighborhood. This area is South Laughlin Street, Chicago, Illinois. This house is where I lived until I was 8 years old. This is where I learned how to ride a bike, tie my shoes, and started school. This house is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house with a finished basement. These homes cost about $150,000. Here are a few pictures of what these homes look like inside. These pictures are not of the house I grew up in, but they will give you an idea. Back in the 60s, we had a hand crank washing machine, and an icebox as a refrigerator. Before I was born, my mother, father, grandmother, 2 aunts, and my 2 brothers lived in the house I just showed earlier. Thus, 7 people lived in that house. Right before I was born, my 2 aunts graduated high school and got jobs, so my grandmother and my 2 aunts moved out and got their own place. The neighborhood still looks the same as it did back then. This neighborhood was built around the year 1960. I was born in 1964, and all of these homes were brand new. In fact, this whole neighborhood was brand new. Every day from when I was 6 years old, we would walk to school. Let me show you where I walked to school. Back in the 60s, some black people were able to move into the middle class because they were able to get federal government jobs, not state government jobs. However, there was still a lot of racism at the state level. Many black people in the 60s became middle class because they got jobs working at the post office. One of my 4 grandfathers worked in the post office. My 2 biological grandfathers died before I was born. Like in many black families in the 60s and the 70s, other people acted like our grandparents or fathers. These people could be your uncles, your grand cousin, or your godparents. Anyway, I had kind of had 5 grandmothers and 2 grandfathers. The racists figured out that federal government jobs provided a way for many black people to move into the middle class, and they did everything they could to stop it. In the 80s, when Ronald Reagan became president, one of the things he kept saying was welfare queens. Back then, most people believed that the majority of people on welfare were black people. However, even today, the majority of people on welfare are white. This is because white people are the biggest population in the United States. Until 1964, the government had one rule for white people receiving welfare, and a different set of rules for black people receiving welfare. In 1964, the civil rights laws went into effect. So now they could no longer have 2 sets of rules. They now had to treat whites and black people equally regarding welfare, which is when the term welfare queen started. Thus, welfare queen is a racist term. A welfare queen is a derogatory term used in the United States to refer to women who allegedly misuse or collect excessive welfare payments through fraud, child endangerment, or manipulation. Plus, President Ronald Reagan also stopped all pay increases for federal employees. Federal employees' pay would no longer keep pace with inflation. Then he cut benefits for federal employees, such as health care. President Ronald Reagan also stopped funding for the post office. I think that the racists believed by stopping funding for the post office would cause most of the black people to lose their jobs working for the post office. What they discovered was that it was the black people that were doing most of the work at the post office. Thus many white people were the ones that lost their jobs at the post office. This was when mass shootings started to increase. In the past, mass shootings were very, very rare. It was the white postal workers who lost their job that went into fast food restaurants and started shooting people in Texas. This is where the term going postal came from. In fact, since the 60s, it has been the state of Texas that has had the most mass shootings. However, Texas has the most relaxed gun laws of all the states. In the past, there were no mass shootings in the states that had strict gun laws. Now you know that one of the reasons why conservatives hate the post office so much, and this is why they have been attempting to privatize or kill the post office. My father and one of my grandfathers worked for the post office. Later, my father got a job working for Sears Roebuck and Company. Sears is an American chain of department stores founded in 1892. Thus, working for Sears in the 70s was like working for Google or Amazon today. My father worked on the Winnie the Pooh line. Because of this, in the 70s, when Walt Disney World in Florida opened, we were one of the first families to stay at the park. Back in the 70s, there were no separate costs for anything at Walt Disney World. All the parks were connected, and you did not have to pay any additional costs to go from one part of Walt Disney World to another part of Walt Disney World.
Nothing, I'm just filming my old neighborhood. I grew up here in the 60s.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, back in the 60s. We moved out back like about 74, 72.
Oh, okay.
That's,
On what block?
Laughlin.
What's your name?
Todd.
Todd.
Yeah, T-O-D-D? Yeah.
I don't remember you. I've been out here since, you say you moved out in the 70s. I've been out here that long.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
But not here. I used to live on 115th Street.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was born out here in 64, so.
Oh, okay.
So that's the reason why.
Oh, okay. Well, nice to see
Nice to
you
meet
walking
you.
through the neighborhood. Yeah.
Well, it was nice talking to you.
You too. Have a good one. Be careful.
Okay. Thanks.
I even have to tell the mailman every day, be careful.
This is the school my brothers and I attended. Every day, we would go home for lunch. It was not until we moved to the white suburbs is when I had to stay at school for lunch. If the white suburbs were so safe, then why could the kids not walk home for lunch and then come back? Let me show you the park where we would play. Back in the 70s, when I was 14 years old, I visited my brother in college in the state of Minnesota. My brother and some of his black friends took me roller skating. At the roller skating rink, everyone was staring and looking at us. Then one white girl came up to me and asked where I was from. I told her Chicago, and she said she had never seen a black person except on television. I got to know her and her friends, and we all had a good time. In fact, even today, in America, there are many places where people have only seen a black person as on television. About 5 years ago, my 70-year-old aunt went on a trip to the state of North Dakota. She said she met a white man who was in his 40s, and he said that he had never talked to a black person in his whole life. In fact, he also said that he had never seen a black person except on television. This is the park, and it was a big park, but since they built the community center, most people no longer use this park. The community center is at the back of the park. This running track is part of the community center. I cannot film inside, but I can show you their website. I will leave a link to this website in the description below. We, or this area, have always had a community center with a pool, but not as nice as this new community center. Now let me show you where we shop for food. It is only a few minutes away. I am not going to review the cost of food in this video. I will make a separate video about the cost of food and buying stuff for babies. However, I can show you a little of what it looks like inside. I am not crazy enough to come here on the weekends when it is filled or packed with people. Since we are almost halfway done with the video, remember to subscribe, hit the like button, or leave a comment. In the year 1972, when I was 8 years old, we moved to the suburbs. This is Osage Street in Park Forest, Illinois. This is now an all-black or African American neighborhood. In fact, all of these homes on this street are custom-built homes, and all of them were built in the 60s. Because of this, I cannot give you the cost of each house. But the prices ranged from $100,000 to $500,000. In the 80s, when I was in college, at a university, a white girl said to me, a black man, that the television show called The Cosby Show, is that black people do not live that way. When we first moved to this neighborhood, when I was 8 years old, only 3 black families lived on this street. By the time I graduated high school, half of this street was black. Now, today, this whole street is black. This was my parents' house. I cannot show you inside, but the top level has 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. The next level has the living room with picture windows, a breakfast room, and a dining room with picture windows, with the kitchen in the middle. The mudroom is on the side with a full-size closet, and behind the mudroom is the laundry room. The next level is the family room with picture windows, and another bathroom. The next level is the finished basement with picture windows. So, the back of the house looks like a 3-story house. This area is built on a hill, so the back of the homes is a lot bigger than what they look like compared to the front. All of these homes have big picture windows in the back. These are some of the friends I grew up with. Let me show you around the neighborhood. Growing up, we had fruit trees all over the place. When we walked to school, we picked apples, pears, and plums right off the trees. We had plum, pears, apples, and berry trees. Let me tell you that the taste of a fresh plum off the tree is nothing like what you buy in the stores today. I used to love plums, but not anymore. I think the people in Florida would tell you that picking an orange with brown or black spots from a tree is better than an orange from the store. The taste of an apple pie from apples freshly picked from the tree is a lot better than what you can get in any store today. What is upsetting is the fact that anything that is organic costs a lot of money. Back in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, everything was organic. Back then, in the 70s and the 80s, all beef was grass-fed, and all meats were organic. We would get fresh milk and eggs delivered every Thursday from the local farmer. Fresh unpasteurized milk. One of the best parts of this town is the crosswalks that cut through the houses. The town has not done a good job keeping the crosswalks in good shape. The houses on this street cost around $40,000 to $100,000. These homes are 3 bedrooms, 1 bath homes, with no basement. I will talk more about these kinds of homes in the video called Skin Color, video number 3. Many white people are moving into black neighborhoods, because they have discovered that the same size home in a black neighborhood costs almost half as much compared to a white neighborhood. Plus, they have also discovered that our schools are just as good as the schools in white neighborhoods. This is the high school I went to, and as you can see, it was ranked as one of the best high schools in America. In the 90s, the federal government significantly reduced the amount of money they gave towns for education. This is why property taxes are now equal to your monthly mortgage payment. Back in the 70s and the 80s, your property taxes were only 10% of your monthly mortgage payment. Before I close, I am just going to show you a little more of my old neighborhood. Thank you for watching. Please click the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and share this video. I have speech issues, which is why most of my videos are computer-generated voiceovers. Plus, it is hard to edit your own voice. For all my foreign viewers, most translation software is not 100% accurate. So, sorry about any mistakes. One more thing. I now have 10 YouTube channels, so I cannot respond to comments. For a free copy of my music, go to my website. Remember, my music is only background music. Right now, my music is free, but if I have to start paying for extra services, then I might have to set a price for a download. If you want to know how to create your own music, then go to my other YouTube channel and look for the word Garageband. Creating your own music is easy. I did it and I cannot play a musical instrument. If you want to know how to translate a video into other languages, then go to my other YouTube channel and look for the word translate. The links are in the description below.